You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Wednesday. Welcome to another edition of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm, of course, your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. You can also follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins. And, of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. Lot to get into for today's episode. We got some new practice lines. The Penguins are now COVID-free, at least knock on wood for now. Will Danton Heinen and Aston-Reese play on Thursday? You know, you're going to find out your answer to those questions. Well, I'm going to give you my thoughts on that in this episode. We're also going to do a full preview against the Senators for that game. And of course, touch on Matt Murray, him making his return. He's not expected to start, but, he is going to be there. Go into a little Matt Vensel, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, I thought wrote a really nice piece. Going to touch on that a little bit. And then the Penguins, they had all of their postponed games finally rescheduled during that 3-week window, which was supposed to be the Olympic break, but obviously that's not happening now. We're going to go into that as well. So first things first. So the biggest news, of today was, Danton Heinen and Aston-Reese came out of COVID protocol, as did Casey DeSmith. Huge news. It's huge news for all of them. I'm not going to sit here and hope Casey DeSmith is sick or something. That's just really screwed up. And, that would just, again, that's evil. But in terms of lines, Aston-Reese and Heinen were skating with Radim Zohorna because he's still on the taxi squad as kind of like a fifth line. The line still remaining the same from the Penguins last game. Gensel, Crosby, Rust, Zucker, Malkin, Kapanen, Simone, Carter, Rodriguez, Boyle, Bluger, McGinn. So when these two players are ready, and, I think as of right now, I don't think Heinen and Aston-Reese will play on Thursday. That's just my guess, just because, Sullivan's he's just been more cautious with players coming out of COVID protocol. Remember, Brock McGinn came out, I think, a day before the game in LA. He didn't play the next game. He came back to the game after that. Brian Rust, he came out, I think it was, a couple days before the last game against Vegas. He was able to play, but, they also had like a little bit of a break, I think, in between that as well. So, in my opinion, I think they might sit out that game and then maybe return on Friday in Columbus. But that's what my thinking is right now, at least. But, the Penguins, there are no injuries for this team outside of Drew O'Connor. I did not think I would say that at any point this season. Obviously, things can change, and knowing the Penguins' luck, I'm sure there's going to be something ridiculous that happens tomorrow. But as of right now, the Penguins have their top 12 forwards fully healthy. They have their top 6 defensemen fully healthy, and they have both goaltenders fully healthy as well. It took the halfway point to this NHL season to say that, but the Pittsburgh Penguins are a fully healthy hockey team. And it feels so good to say. Once Heinen and Aston-Reese are in the lineup, I would expect the lines to look like this. Obviously, Gensel, Crosby, and Rust, Zucker, Malkin, and Kapanen. I know some people were not big fans of that line being reunited. Maybe some people want Danton Heinen up there. I'm sure if one or both of Zucker and Kapanen continue to struggle, especially Kapanen, he's just not been good this year. I would not be surprised if Mike Sullivan, just changes it up. I think that's the main thing. I mean, I've seen a lot of Penguins fans clamor for Heinen to be up in Zucker's spot, or, maybe Rodriguez to be in Kapanen's spot. I wouldn't mind that personally. I mean, Rodriguez has played better than Kapanen this year. He deserves top 6 minutes a lot more over Kapanen, and he's gone a little cold the last few games. I mean, obviously he was not going to continue at that torrid pace that he was on for the rest of the season, though he has gone a little cold. I think, maybe elevating him up to Malkin's line for at least a few shifts moving forward would be pretty good, but, I'm not really sure if Sullivan is going to do that, at least in my opinion. The third line, when healthy, it's going to be Heinen, it's going to be Heinen, Carter, and Rodriguez. I mean, there are not many better third lines than that in the league, especially with how Evan has been for this season. Jeff Carter's been really good, and Danton Heinen has almost 10 goals already Just a really deep top nine, one of the best top nines, I think, in the league. And then, of course, the fourth line will be Zach Aston-Reese, Teddy Bluger, and Brock McGinn. Basically, of course, a throwback to last year's Aston-Reese Bluger Tanev line. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch once those two are back in the lineup. Assuming there are no injuries tomorrow, and assuming Mike Sullivan does not put them in the lineup, the Penguins will probably debut that lineup in Columbus on Friday. And every player on this team will be in the best position to succeed. I can't say that enough. You're not having compared to last year, you'd have Teddy Bluger playing top 6 minutes at times. I think Brandon Tanev was playing top 6 minutes, at times. A whole bunch of other players were just, they weren't in their respective roles that they're best at. Now, hopefully for the rest of the season, or at least for a good chunk of time, we can actually see what this team looks like when they're healthy and how they play when they're healthy. As of right now, it looks like Brian Boyle is probably the 13th forward. Dominic Simone is the 14th forward. I don't really have a problem with that. I know a lot of people like Radim Zohorna, and I want to see more of him too. His contract for next year is a one-way deal. So I'm thinking just because of how, they signed him, they're going to give him every opportunity and chance to make the team next year out of camp. But right now he is on the taxi squad. It's expected to go through the All-Star break. I'm not sure, excuse me, if they are going to continue the taxi squads after the All-Star break, but assuming, and I know they made changes to COVID protocol and now they're not going to test asymptomatic players, but I still think you don't want to risk anything. They should keep the taxi squads for the rest of the season. I mean, honestly, at least until the pandemic, slightly goes away. I mean, we're still basically 2 years into this shit, and it's not closer to going away as it was back then. So me personally, I would keep the taxi squads at least for a little bit longer. But that is the lineup that you are going to see at least by Friday. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but maybe we'll see it tomorrow. Who knows? Goaltending wise, Sullivan did not have an announcement on that today, at least not from what I read on social media and stuff, and just the press releases. If I had to guess, I think they're going to go with Louis Domingue. I think they're going to save Tristan for the division game in Columbus. Though, honestly, you could start either goalie in this game, and I don't think anyone would care. Both of these teams are not that good. I mean, the Blue Jackets are so far behind in the Metropolitan Division. Columbus right now, they're 11 points back of Boston from the 8th spot in the East. From Pittsburgh-wise, they have 2 games in hand on the Penguins, and Pittsburgh is 16 points above them. Columbus is 17 and 18 and 1 this season. They are the only team in the league to have only one overtime loss. All their games have basically ended in regulation. So if I were a betting man, I would say that game on Friday will end in regulation. Though now that I'm saying that, I'm sure it's going to go to overtime, and maybe the Penguins will give them only their second OT loss of the year. But I'm looking forward to that game. They haven't played Columbus in a couple of years. Though that said, that's just how Mike Sullivan sees it with starting the goalie in a divisional game versus not in a divisional game. That's what I think he's going to do. If it's flip-flopped, I'll be wrong there. That's for sure. Coming up in the next segment, though, we are going to have a full preview of the Ottawa Senators, touch on Matt Murray, and just, how I'm really still rooting for him overall, just both as a player and a person. But before we do that, it is a new year, so that means New Year's resolutions. If yours is about getting fit or eating healthier, make sure you include Built Bar in your plan. Built Bar is the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, maybe even better than a candy bar as well. Built Bar makes it easier to stick to your resolution because it tastes so good you'll want to eat it, unlike other protein bars which can be chalky or waxy or taste like a chemical spill. You want to eat healthy, but it just gets so boring by week 3, you might be thinking, well, this is just not worth it. Where's the chocolate? Well, that's the thing. Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. Most of them contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and 4 grams of net carbs, and there's 17 grams of protein. Here's an idea for the new year. Go to all your secret treat stashes at home, in the pantry, maybe at your office, in the car somehow, wherever. Throw out all the sugary or calorie-filled treats and replace them with Built Bars. So when you're craving a snack or treat, you can reach for something that's healthy and tastes incredible. There's so many flavors to choose from with coconut almond, peanut butter brownie, raspberry, cookies and cream, which is my favorite, and so many more. You can go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. All right, welcome back to this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Also follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins. So, second meeting of the year against the Senators. The Penguins, of course, lost the first one in Ottawa. What was that, a 5-3, 6-3 final score? The Penguins, they were down 5-0. Then they scored 3 goals to make it 5-3. And then Ottawa ended up icing the game away. I mean, they were not going to score 5 goals in like 10 minutes, something like that. They made it a little scary for a second, but, it was just too little too late. That was honestly one of the Penguins' worst games of the season. It happened right around mid-November. And after that was on the back-to-back where they got blown out in that game, of course, and then they went to Washington, got a bunch of players back from the first COVID outbreak, including Sidney Crosby, and got boat raced in that game. I'm pretty sure the final score was 6-1 or something like that. But, after that, the season really started to turn. Remember the game the week later against Vancouver at home when Brian Russ was playing well. That, I think, around that time was when this started to turn around, and now you see the Penguins are only 2 points out of third. Of course, Washington won on Tuesday night. But overall, Ottawa lineup-wise, Brady Tkachuk, Josh Norris, and Drake Batherson. Tkachuk is obviously one of the biggest ones to watch out here for. One of the best young players, I think, in the league. He was definitely going to make Team USA. Had all of the players actually gone to the Olympics. Points-wise this season, I can find it here. 24 points in 29 games played, so 12 of those are goals. Though he hasn't scored in his last 5 games. He has 2 points in those last 5 games, but both of them are assists. But, I never really bought the hype about the Sens this year that they were going to challenge for a playoff spot or something. I remember listening, I think it was 32 Thoughts, the podcast with Elliot and Jeff Merrigan. That is, I like to think that I run a pretty good podcast here. I hope I do. At least I know a lot of you love listening to it. That podcast is the gold standard. I will say that to the day I die. My goal is to have a podcast just with, everything they do. I would love to just, have it be like that. Obviously I want to do my own thing, but, they do a tremendous job with that show. If you don't listen to it, you got to do it both times a week when it comes out. Anyways, they both had heard that Eugene Melnyk was like, well, we got to make the playoffs this year. That's what I'm looking for. But now you go to the standings, and how far out are they? I mean, they're at the basement. They are only 11-19-2 this year. Only the Montreal Canadiens at 8-25-5 are worse than them. And that just goes to show that, they're still not close. And a lot of that has to do, their forward depth is not that good. I mean, Stützle on the second line is good. Sanford is all right. But, you got Formanton, Nick Paul, Watson, Gambrell, Chris Tierney, Adam Gaudette. I mean, this is not a good forward corps. I mean, you have a good a line. You have Tim Stützle, who is going to turn into a really good player. Sanford is but like St. Louis really wasn't even using him, I don't think, anyway. So where did this talk come from that they were going to make the playoffs with a forward core or forward group, that looks like that? Defensively, I mean, Shabbat is incredible. I love watching him. He's one of the best young defensemen in the league. But, Bronnstrom, I mean, he's on the bottom pairing, Holden on the second pairing, Zub on the second pairing. I mean, I don't even know who Shabbat's partner is here. Bernadocker? I actually do not. I have never even heard of that player. It is not often that I don't hear of players that are on teams because I like to think that I follow the league wide. I don't just follow the Penguins here. But they have a lot of players on here where it's just like, I mean, there was never going to be a shot that they would make the playoffs this year. I think they're still, at least a few years away. They got to add both to the forward corps and their defensive groups. If they want to make the playoffs, goalie-wise. So Matt Murray is going to travel on this trip, but he will not be playing on Thursday. That was per one of the Senators reporters I saw on Twitter today. So it'll be one of Philip Gustafsson or Anton Forsberg will be starting for us, Ottawa. Remember, Gustafsson actually started against Pittsburgh in the first matchup, and he allowed 3 goals, but he was still pretty good in that game prior to that. And, I just want to say this. I hope tomorrow when Matt Murray is there, he's on the bench, which I think he will be. He's traveling with the team. I really hope he gets a rocking, thundering ovation from PPG Paints Arena. I understand that the end of his tenure was not the best. He didn't play good hockey. I get that. But you know what? The dude is human. He just lost his dad, I want to say a year and a half to 2 years before this all went down. Obviously he hasn't been the same goalie since. That potentially has a lot to do with that. But he was so instrumental in getting the Penguins those back-to-back Stanley Cups. They do not win those cups without him. Remember in 2017, Fleury started it. Murray finished it because Sullivan knew he could go back to him. He knew he was healthy, and he was a .937 goalie the rest of the way. I know there is a weird segment of Penguins fans that can never, I guess, get it out of their system that he was replacing a franchise icon in Marc-Andre Fleury. I never understand those kind of fans. I mean, those are people that I think root for the players, root for a singular player, but not the team's success overall. And trust me, back when I was, 18 to 19 years old, watching those teams and just on social media, sorry for the itch in my eye for those that are watching on YouTube, just those, that I saw some weird takes, even on message boards and everything. I'm just like, are you rooting for the Penguins to win, or are you just rooting for them to lose just because Marc-Andre Fleury was not in the lineup? I mean, I really didn't understand it. Matt Bensel, he had a great story on the Post-Gazette's website. He's had a nice chat with him, and Murray even confirmed, he misses being with the Penguins dearly to this day. And just, the story overall, it had a lot of quotes, as I loaded up here to just, to take a look at these. He said he enjoyed every second of his time in Pittsburgh. Things happened the way that they happen. You just try to make the most of it. He says he has no complaints, no regrets. I'm just super thankful that I got to spend all those years there. He also says he cherishes the friendships he made with guys like Brian Rust and Brian Dumoulin. He said they were all so tight in Wilkes-Barre. Remember, they all came up together for that, that youth movement during the 2015-16 season. So it's just, I'm sure he's going to, give all of them a hug, something like that. I'm just really hoping when the Penguins do run a tribute video for him, and they will. I mean, the guy was amazing in back-to-back Stanley Cups. I just really hope he gets the ovation he deserves. I don't want to hear a singular boo from anyone in the crowd while I'm watching, back here at home. And I hope no one else at home is booing him either because, I understand he struggled towards the back half of it. And, he wasn't that good in a couple playoff runs after those back-to-back Stanley Cups. But you know what? He was so good in those first two runs that, it trumps that. And I think, honestly, those two runs, I'll say it right now, he was better than what Marc-Andre Fleury was in 2009. He wasn't as good as Fleury was in 2008, but compared to what Fleury did in 2009, if you look at the numbers and all that, I know he had the big save on Lidstrom at the end, but I would take Murray's 2 years over, Fleury's run any day of the week. At least that's my opinion. So excited to see him back. I know he's not going to be starting, but I'm glad that he seems to be doing better. He seems to be playing a lot better ever since he was called up as well. It doesn't look like, again, that he's going to be starting in this game. I think he's going to be with the team, but it's still great that, he's starting to turn his game around a little bit just because he's been banged up all year. And honestly, the last couple of years has been really hard on him. But coming up in the next segment, we're going to go into the 3-week window for the new Penguins games. Just, give you all the dates in case you all are thinking of buying season tickets and all that, and just, all that good jazz. But before we get to that, BetOnline would like to wish you a happy new betting year as we continue our march to the playoffs and beyond. BetOnline remains the number one spot for all the best sports wagering action for 2022. It's a new year, and that means it's a new updated desktop and mobile website. To sign up today and receive a 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit, just use your promo code, locked on to get started. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. That is BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, so we're back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Also follow the show's Twitter, @LO_Penguins. So, getting to the February schedule. Remember, it was supposed to be, from the 2nd to about, the like 4th or something like that there wasn't going to be any games just because of the Olympic break. Obviously, that's no longer the case. So the Penguins will have a little mini bye week from February 1st until February 8th. So they'll play Washington on the 1st at home. After that, they will be off from the 2nd until the 8th. Well, after that game. So again, it's basically still a week. They will probably be able to go on a little vacation, something like that. So they will not play again until that next Monday when they'll go to Boston to play the Bruins. Remember, that was one of the postponed games that was supposed to take place last month. But here's the new date: February 8th in Boston. The next one, February 10th in Ottawa. Remember, they were supposed to go to Ottawa. That one got canceled due to like seating requirements, something like that. And then remember the other one that was supposed to be in New Jersey. That one got postponed. So that will now be February 13th, 1 o'clock start. And then the game that was supposed to be in Philadelphia with that almost like a home and home situation, it'll be in Pittsburgh, February 15th, 7 o'clock start time. Then the other one that was supposed to be in Toronto a few weeks back, that will now be February 17th at 7 o'clock. And then February 20th, they will play the Carolina Hurricanes. That's a Sunday at 1 o'clock. And then New Jersey on the 24th. So they will be done with New Jersey by basically this time next month. They will not have to play them for the rest of the season. And then they'll have the Rangers on the 26th. I think that one was already scheduled overall. So in case you are looking at, if you are listening to this podcast and you're thinking about going to some home games, February 1st against Washington, February 15th against the Philadelphia Flyers, February 20th against the Carolina Hurricanes, February 24th against the New Jersey Devils, and February 26th against the New York Rangers. I believe I have all of those right. If I go to the Penguins Twitter account here, I better not get beamed or anything. Believe I got this. Oh, one more. So there's a new home game on April 29th. It was supposed to be against Carolina. That one will now be against Columbus. That will be the Penguins' last regular season game. So the regular season will officially end on April 29th. Now, only one as well. So there was also an away game with the Islanders from March 10th. That one now has been moved to April 12th. That'll take place in Belmont on Long Island. So those are all the schedule changes for the Penguins. The league just unleashed it all today with all the postponed games that they had to do. And they have now confirmed that they will be able to finish the regular season by April 29th. So as of right now, we have close to 3 months left in the NHL regular season. I mean, it's pretty crazy that, in close to 3 short months, we're going to have the Stanley Cup playoffs right back here. These seasons just fly by. It honestly never ceases to amaze me how fast these fly by. I mean, every year I say that, and it gets quicker and quicker. So I think that will do it, though, for this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I really appreciate all of you listening to this one. I'm excited to watch this team now when it's fully healthy. It was always a matter of if, not when. Well, it looks like we've gotten the when part. Remember, full game recap episode comes tomorrow night after the game against the Senators at home, and then we'll have a full game recap on after Friday's episode against Columbus. So, we're still chugging along for this podcast. I apologize for only 3 episodes last week, but that's a thing of the past. Full steam ahead this week, and of course, I thank all of you for continuing to tune in for this pod. So, thank you all so much for listening to this one, and I'll be back with you on Thursday evening for a full game recap for the Penguins matchup against the Senators.